Hey cellists, welcome to my channel. I'm Mia. If this is your first time here, I welcome you to our channel and I encourage you to like and subscribe so you can get more tips and tricks on how to play the cello using powerful mind and body tools. So today we're going to be discussing how to play major and minor arpeggios in every key. Now this is a really interesting topic because as a classically trained cellist, when I was younger, I learned to play arpeggios and scales through the Royal Conservatory of Music exam process. So what that meant was that I would do grades, and in each grade there'd be some scales and some arpeggios for me to learn. And I went through 8 levels of this program. However, during that time when I was learning the scales and arpeggios, I never learned a system to integrate those scales and arpeggios together to really understand how they work with my instrument. So while I learned to play scales and arpeggios really well, I didn't understand the practical theory that lies behind learning scales and arpeggios and the patterns that you can use to be able to much more easily move between keys on your instrument and to understand exactly what you're doing at any moment on the cello. Now this is a thing that guitar players and piano players often take for granted, because when you play guitar or when you play piano, you have a visual map on your instrument of what's going on. When we have a fretless instrument, it's much more difficult to understand or to conceptualize where you are on the instrument, but we can do that using patterns. So if you've watched any of my other content, you'll know that I often stress using the circle of fifths as a way to really understand and get deep into the theory of your instrument. And the point of doing that is so that you'll be able to move around your instrument with ease and always understand what note you're playing. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to move you through a really simple series of chord progressions, or otherwise known as arpeggios, in order to be able to move around your instrument and use the exact same fingering pattern for each key. So we're going to play major and minor chords on our instrument, and I'm going to show you how you can use the same fingering pattern for all the major and minor keys. In order to do this, you're going to want to have a circle of fifths. If you've never encountered the circle of fifths before, or you feel like you don't have a very good understanding of what the circle of fifths is, I encourage you to stop this video and then check out my other video called The Circle of Fifths, Why It's So Important for Playing the Cello. So if you have watched that video, what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top of the circle of fifths at the key of C, and we're going to move around the circle playing a major chord, so that is the first note of a scale, the third note of the scale, and the fifth note of the scale in every key using the same finger pattern. This is a very powerful tool that I encourage you to do every day to get around your instrument as a really nice warm-up. So we're going to start with the key of C. So in the key of C, if we want to play this using a universal fingering, we can't start on the low C because that's an open string. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on finger 1 on the G string. So your first step is to find a C, finger 1 on the G string. For those of you who understand positions, this is third position. If you don't understand, that's okay. You can just play your low C and then match with first finger on the G string. So from here, if we're in the key of C, C is our first note in the key. To make a major arpeggio, we have to play a note that is a major third above C, and that is the E. In order to do that, we have to extend with our fourth finger and play E. Then we want to play the fifth note of the scale, and the fifth note of the scale is G, which is across from C. If you understand your circle of fifths, you'll understand that every note around the circle of fifths is 5 notes above the one before it. So we played C, we played the third in between, which is E, and then we played G. C and G on your cello are right across from each other. Here's C, and here's G. So the arpeggio, C, E, fourth finger, G. That's what we're going to call our major chord shape. we play 1, extension 4, and then 1 across. And that gives us the complete chord of C major. Now what's really cool is you can take this shape, 1, extension 4, 1, and play that anywhere in the lower positions of your cello in any key, and it's going to be the exact same finger pattern. So if I want to play G, so moving around the circle of fifths, I go to the key of G. I'm going to find G with my first finger. Can't play open string because we want to use the same finger pattern. So we're going to play G with your first finger on the C string, and then we're going to play G, B, extension, D across. Continuing with that pattern, we're going to find D with first finger. D, F sharp, A, F sharp, D. Moving to A, C sharp, extension, E, C sharp, A. Every time we go to a new key, the fingering is exactly the same. That's what we call a universal fingering. And in this case, it's 1, extension 4, 1. The extension 1 to extension 4, whenever you play that on your instrument in the lower positions, which is 4th position or lower, that's always going to be a major third. And that's a really important piece of information to remember for yourself. It's going to help you a lot, whether you're reading sheet music, whether you're trying to improvise over chords, whatever you're trying to do. Knowing that this is a major third is a really big deal. So after A comes the key of E. So we're going to find E with our first finger, extension 4, over to B. And if you find, like me, that was a little bit out of tune, you can play it again, just to refine your extension. Right? A little higher. There we go. Don't be afraid to stop and tune things. As always, when we do our extensions, we want to make sure our thumb is low enough behind our second, third finger so that we can reach the 4th finger. Moving to the next key of B. First finger B. Extension D sharp, F sharp. Next to F sharp major. F sharp, A sharp, C sharp. Moving to, now this is an interesting thing, at the bottom of the circle of fifths, here we were at F sharp major. If we keep going around, we go into what are called the flat keys, D flat major, but this can also be thought of as C sharp major because those are the same notes. Again, if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, you may want to spend some time understanding how some notes can be called sharp or can be called flat. So we're here at D flat. We're going to call it D flat for now. So D flat major, D flat, F, A flat. Moving around the circle, we're going from D flat to A flat, A flat, C, E flat. Moving to E flat, G. B flat. And then to F. Which brings us back to C. So we've now moved all the way around the circle of fifths, played a chord in every key, the major chord in every key, and we did that using the exact same finger pattern. This is a really powerful tool because a lot of the time when cellists are learning, we spend a lot of time playing keys that are kind of up here at the top of the circle of fifths, C, G, D, but we often don't spend a lot of time moving around through these keys. So when we get to these keys in a piece of music, we feel kind of overwhelmed. So this tool of learning to play chords in all the keys gets you really thinking about keys and our intervals and chords, and that's going to help you in every aspect of your cello playing, especially playing in tune and shifting around. So what we can do now, once you've played one octave arpeggio in all 12 keys, you can start moving up the instrument and playing the arpeggios with 2 octaves or 3 octaves. You just want to remember when you go into the second octave, if you're going above the 4th position, we no longer use the 4th finger because the notes get closer together. So in that case, instead of 1, 4, 1, your fingering is going to be 1, 3, 1. So I'll give you an example of that. So if I'm playing C major, and I've played C, E, which is the major third with the extension, G, then I want to do the next octave. So I go from this first finger, G, I'm going to shift up to the first finger, C, for the next octave. And instead of using 4th finger, because now I'm in 6th position, E with 3rd finger, G with 1. So basically the same pattern, except I'm using 3rd finger instead of 4th. So now I've played 2 octaves. C, E, G, 1, 4, 1, up to 1, 3, 1. Like that. So I can put those 2 octaves together like this. 1, 4, 1, 1, 3, 1. And then if I wanted to, I could shift again up to C on the A string with 1st finger. 3, up to 1, and then 3 at the top to play that last C. So you'll see how this universal fingering can be very powerful to understanding and playing in all 12 keys, which is key to really being a super facile, experienced cello player, is being able to play in all 12 keys. If you have a classical music background, there's a good chance that you did a lot of scale practice, but you didn't really learn to go all the way around your 12 keys unless you were at a super high level. I didn't learn this until I went to university and I started playing with jazz musicians. And this is the way that they organize their theory practice, because if you're in a jazz session, you might want to play in a random key depending on whether the singer can play in a certain range. You want to be able to easily transpose whatever you're playing into different keys. So jazz players are used to practicing in 12 keys, whereas classical players tend to kind of shy away from that. And what I'd like to kind of encourage you to do is to think more like a jazz player, because when you have that thought of playing in all 12 keys, you're much more likely to understand the patterns and the fingerboard geography around your instrument, rather than guessing or rather than using a scale book that might be giving you different fingerings for different keys. You want to make this as easy as possible for yourself. That said, those classical fingering patterns are not a bad thing. They just don't help you to understand patterns in all of the keys. So while they can be good for practicing certain types of shifts, they're not great for understanding practical theory. And I feel like that's a really important aspect of playing the cello that's missing from most classical areas of study. So if you have any questions about this major chord form, let me know in the comments. In the future, I'd like to make some more videos showing you minor chord forms and extended chord forms. So if you have any interest in those topics, let me know. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more information like this. You can also join our group on Facebook if you'd like to get some free tips and tricks on how to play the cello and join a community. Our Facebook group is at facebook.com/groups/playcellobetter. And I'll put that information in the description so that you can check that out. I also have a free training that you can check out, and you'll find that below this video as well. See you soon, and happy cello playing!